want to bring in someone to give us kind of a dialogue, what he saw last night. I'm joined now by Chip Washington. He is a WLOK radio host, and Chip watched the Memphis Mayoral Forum last night. Chip, I want to first begin with overall, what did you think of the Mayoral Forum from your perspective?
Well, first of all, Andrew, it's great to be with you again this morning. I thought it was well done. The questions that were asked, and I believe many of those came from the public, were good questions. I thought the format was pretty solid. Things went pretty smooth in terms of that. And I think for the candidates last night, this was a final opportunity to sit before the public, if you will, and really address the key issues and, more importantly, answer the questions as to why they should be elected the next mayor of our city, because we obviously have many great challenges that lie ahead.
Do you think, Chip, at any point last night, do you think that there was a strong and hard contrast with different candidates? I felt watching it, they a lot of times were asked a question, and a lot of times I saw kind of the same response. Up until the very end when they had closing statements, I felt like a lot of their responses kind of melted into the other's response. It seemed very homogenized, if you will, about the responses. I felt at the very end we heard, you know, I'm the only candidate that does this, or I'm the only candidate that can say that. What was your take? Did you feel like there was enough contrast?
Well, I thought last night some of the candidates started to try to separate themselves a bit from the others. I do agree with the fact that some of the answers were pretty, okay, and you rehearse a lot of these answers, and of course they've been doing debates and forums now, meet and greets for a very long time, and so you get some of these answers down pat. I was very impressed. I have to say that Van Turner showed me last night. He's starting to focus in on this thing a bit. His answers were pretty sharp and pretty concise, and he didn't use the knife to go after other folks. At this particular point in time, with today being the first day of early voting, it really is time to start to talk more about what you are going to do in this position. I was also, to be honest with you, very pleased with the performances of both the ladies, State Representative Karen Camper and Michelle McKissick. I thought they handled themselves very well last night. But yeah, you hear the same questions, Andrew, over and over again, and your answers start to become, almost robotic in a sense. So I didn't see a whole lot new, but there were a few high points, if you will, for me from some of the individual candidates.
One of the questions I really liked was the 300-pound elephant in the room, Willie Harrington, and their responses were kind of the same, a little bit different. I thought Karen Camper was the only one who was very critical about Willie Harrington not really helping the African-American community when he was in office. The other ones essentially said all the same thing, that, he was a mayor, he was a pioneer for that time period, but that is in the past and we need to move forward. What was your response specifically on Willie Harrington? Because as you mentioned, we talked a few days ago, by all accounts, he is a front runner, or at least in the top tier of people who could win this election.
Very good point. I thought that, it's interesting that he was the elephant in the room and he was not there. Of course, the former mayor made no bones about the fact that he was not going to do any debates or be involved in any of that. So what you saw, or what you're seeing now in terms of some of these polls, and I haven't seen one lately, but he's in the top tier, and people are looking at him from when he was last mayor about 12 years ago, and some of the accomplishments that he set forth when he was the mayor. It's very interesting to me that people are still holding on to the past in terms of that. They look at, which tells me that they're looking at the current field, and they don't see anybody in particular that they feel strongly enough about to maybe pull the trigger for. But no, I mean, former Mayor Willie Harrington is still a very major presence in this race. A lot of people are thinking about how the city performed when he was the mayor. You pay reverence to someone who led the city for as long as he did. He was the first African-American mayor ever elected to this city. So there is a lot of respect that is due there. But the big issue is, where do we go from here? Do we go backwards and try to recapture some old glory, or do we move forward, as a few of them said, with a new generation, a new sense of leadership, moving forward? So that, to me, is one of the biggest questions, Andrew, in this election.
One of the other questions I had afterwards, so, okay, let's consider the fact that perhaps he is leading, by a small percentage. We know that by all accounts, in fact, I think it was the Daily Memphian who put out the latest, that there are still, as early voting begins today, about 23% that are undecided right now. Do you think, based upon that Memphis Mayoral Forum, that if there were perhaps someone or a group of people that were leaning to voting for Willie Harrington once again, that they saw that Memphis Mayoral Forum and changed their mind? Why or why not?
Well, that's a good question. It's hard to say, but I think the key in what you just said was, and the concern for me, 23% of people at this late date, at the beginning of early voting, still have not decided who they're going to choose for mayor. And that's a pretty high percentage. I mean, a lot of people you talk to today will say, well, I have 3 or 4 that I'm looking at pretty seriously, and, that I'm leaning towards one way or the other. I do think that, that is a big factor. And to me, one of the biggest determinant factors is the percentage of people that do early voting. The early voting numbers, to me, are going to be, in the next couple of weeks, are going to be critical in terms of seeing and defining what this race looks like as we get to election day. So if we continue to be as apathetic as we are as a voting public, then this is going to be a very tough race to call. If folks actually turn out and they think this is a very important and consequential race, as it is, then we'll start to maybe see a defined focus as to exactly who is going to lead this city. I think it's a big question for a lot of people. It's a big question, and you have the upper tier of candidates that you were talking about who appeared last night. All understand that what they say and how they say it and how they carry themselves one way or another, regardless of whether Dr. Harrington was there last night, he was there in spirit. So yes, there is. This is the critical time in terms of any decisions that people are making right now, and people are starting to finally focus in and listen to what these candidates have to say.
Well, during the Memphis Mayoral Forum, Chip, one of the things that I enjoyed was the lightning round. At least the first one, I thought especially was interesting and telling. And I want to get your take on it. When they said, just tell us one name, when Joe said, tell us one name you would like in your administration, and I thought it was interesting that the majority, the winner of that name contest, was Karen Camper. What were your thoughts on that?
I was surprised, but then again, I wasn't surprised. Karen Camper is a very, very sharp individual, highly intelligent. She has the track record. She's been in the State House. She understands the process of how things are done, especially from the state level, which I think for her is an advantage. But what that showed me last night was that people are paying attention to her as well. And more importantly, she has garnered the respect of many in this city, including obviously several who were on the podium last night.
I also think that her connections in Nashville, I thought was a little bit underrated for her. I thought she should have mentioned it. She did mention one time during the debate how she's able to reach across, party lines and get things done for the people of Tennessee. And she mentioned her connections in Nashville. That would be a benefit if she were mayor. Anything else before we let you go, Chip, that came out of the mayoral forum last night that you wanted to mention that you thought was interesting?
I just thought after I saw it that there were some strong closing arguments. But what I did overall, I didn't hear anything that was groundbreaking or earth shattering. I do believe that if people were paying attention to this last night, this is their last opportunity, or that was their last opportunity to really take a good close look at these candidates. And now you have to make a decision based on the facts. All the way up to this particular point, everybody's been doing a lot of talking. You're starting to see commercials on television, and you're starting to hear radio ads and things like that. People need to now sit back and really start to formulate a thought as to exactly the challenges that we face, Andrew, as a city going into the next year. And is the person that you are thinking about selecting strong enough to be able to deal with those challenges and face them head on, as we continue to move forward in this city? We have a lot of challenges. There are a lot of challenges, in terms of not just crime, but, the economics, the infrastructure, poverty, education. There are a lot of things on the plate. And now it's time to take everything that you have heard and really put it into a concise space and decide who it is that you want to be the next mayor of the city of Memphis.
And hopefully people will decide at the ballot box by going out and exercising their right to vote. That's essentially what we want to see done, is that more and more people will go out and vote in this Memphis municipal election. Chip Washington at WLOK Radio, we really appreciate you joining us on the digital desk. Thanks for your insights, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Really appreciate it. Thank you.